enemies and acquaintances, and welcome back to Ravenstorm Studios. And today I will be talking about one of my personal favorite horror podcasts, Hello from the Hallowoods, and also how it has influenced queer media in general. Before we begin today's video, I would like to say that if you stay tuned to the end, there will be a new merch reveal. It's not merch for the channel, but I do have an Etsy store, and there is a new interesting sticker there. So if you want to find out more about that, please watch to the end. Um, Now I know a lot of you will be thinking, no, what about Welcome to Night Vale and the Magnus Archives? And they are very good, but I honestly find this one um to my taste more. Um, just before we get into today's episode, I would like to give a quick warning. While I will be not going into extreme detail, there will be some general spoilers for the podcast episodes. So watch out for that. Over the past few years, podcasting has become ever more popular medium, and unfortunately, that means that it has come with all of these alpha male podcasters who honestly ruin the name of podcasting. But if we can look past that, podcast is a wonderful genre of storytelling, and yeah, if you want me to talk more about that sort of thing in the future, comment below because I will. Um, and yeah, and while that is an unfortunate thing, um, podcasting has allowed many independent creators to grow, um, and make things to their own rules, because really podcasting comes with very little restrictions, unlike, for example, the Owl House, which is a very popular, well, at least in my opinion, children's show that premiered on Disney. And um, not to push anything here, but um, a large majority, well, a lot of things I have seen have cited its cancellation under very suspicious circumstances to be because of the LGBT plus representation. Um, so Hello from the Hallow Woods, which is the podcast I was meant to be talking about today, is written and majority voiced by William A. William A. Wellman, who, as they have stated themselves, is a gay non-binary author, and they have a really wonderful website. So I think you should go check that out. I'll put that in the description. The story is told through the many eyes of the omnipresent but never omniscient. Well, he thinks it's a sort of a fad, honestly. Nicky Nick, and the humans he takes interest in, and it takes place in a near future post-apocalyptic version of the world that somehow feels close to home. Um, and it explores a lot of deep and meaningful themes, such as capitalism and the horrors that lie therein, and also repressed trauma and um, internalized homophobia, also especially religious trauma. So if you're not up for that, it would not be a great read. Sorry, listen for you. But it does shed some light on the experiences that some people might have. Um, and it's really interesting. And I can't it it while I can't empathize much with the experiences I that happen in this podcast, I am lucky enough not to have gone through some of the horrible things that they show. Um, I have been in Catholic spaces that have been quite unfortunate, and it I can see a bit of it in there, and that's really interesting to me. But and the best part is it has so much representation. Um, there are so many. So well, some of it's really amazing, and it has a sort of gothic woodsy vibe that really goes well, and just to pop it on and listen to it with a cup of tea in winter is really, really nice. And while it is technically a horror podcast, um, I wouldn't. It what I have listened to of it so far is not so terrifying that it puts me off, but it's more deep than a lot of horror media that I have seen. Not to say that horror media cannot be deep, but it well represents um it well represents so many issues, and I feel it's just amazing for, as far as I know, one creator to make so much content so quickly. And it doesn't have ads, which I love, and I do understand that many content creators have to have ads and sponsorships to survive, but here they are relying more so on Patreon, and I know that Mix Wellman has a book in the works, and I am so excited. I'm not sure if it's been released yet, but I know it's it's been being worked on, and I'm really excited for that because they write so well, and um it's extremely thought provoking what they write. And so I have several podcasts like this, and so it's kind of somewhere for me. I guess the vibes would be kind of somewhere in between Welcome to Night Vale and the Magnus Archives, at least from what I've listened to of those podcasts, because I have a terrible habit of binging like um, two-thirds of a podcast, and then just moving on to another one. And that is, I know that is a terrible habit, and I have to listen to them more. So I'm working on that in the future. But from what I've heard so far, it's kind of sometimes got that vibe of um, comforting existential pieces. I don't really know exactly how to explain it, but um, there's like existential terror, more like Welcome to Night Vale, which I used to just put it on and listen to it before bed, um, because it was a comforting kind of existential dread, more so in a way. But now, lately, and I do not criticize it for that, but I have unfortunately had to stop listening to that one, um, because I'm not someone who deals well with extreme existential horror. I do very much enjoy more typical types of horror, I guess, such as psychological horror and like uh, slasher, I guess you would call it. Not so much slasher as psychological horror, but I don't deal well with existential terror, and this one and this podcast has brought me more into that and kind of brought me out of my comfort zone, but not in a way that is incredibly uncomfortable. Like, it's led me to experience new things um, without having to worry about being too terribly um, too incredibly worried about being shocked to the point of um, running away. But yes, it is amazing. Um, Back to the um, religious trauma that and repressed trauma, that is one particular storyline, because it is not entirely linear, but it is very, like, it's more linear in it's more episodic than, no, more serial than some other podcasts I've listened to. For example, the Welcome to Night Vale, as they say on the at in the description, you can just listen to any episode, though there are some important details that you kind of need. But and the Magnus Archive sort of starts off like that, but then the story comes together more and more as you go on. Whereas this one more is kind of like that, but is a little bit more so on the things happen, and then in the next episode, things that carry on from that happen, not just things happen and then unrelated things happen and then sort of related things happen and so on. I'm not sure if I'm making super great sense. This is the first time I have done something like this, and I'm not really going off a script, as you can tell. I've kind of got some notes here, but it's not really there. And yeah, so that trauma is expressed in the story of one of the major antagonists um, from more of the beginning of the podcast, the instrumentalist, or as we later find out, Solomon Reeves. Um, he he murders people and turns them into instruments, binding their soul into the very fabric of the um, things that he is creating, uh, with the magic cabinet. Now, Solomon Reed here is a man of God. And he is, um, well, he has a rather strange relationship with his child, Percy, as we come to know him, who he trapped inside, whose soul he trapped inside a piano, and left to rot. Yeah, quite a complex relationship, I would say, and it's very unfortunate because as we find out later, Percy is trans, and his father did not take lightly to that. To be quite frank, he thought it was a demon possessing his child, and so unfortunately, he thought he could strip him of that demon by removing his physical body and purifying his soul in his magic cabinet. Now there is a more, so this isn't the entire plot. This is just one strand of it that I was focusing on. But there is a more overarching plot that is set in a dystopian, that is set in a post-apocalyptic world in which the Black Rains have come down upon the land and transformed it into something darker, something more twisted. And then the beginning of the show is just Nick narrating through the experience of his many eyes, the struggles of humans going through this. Um, and he, as they say, he does not like omniscience, though he is in a way, in a way omniscient, but not quite, because you see, he is omnipresent. He is Nick, the thousand eyes in the dark. He sees everything, everywhere, and in a way that is quite close to knowing everything. But you do have to. But it is, I would believe, better than knowing everything, because there is quite an interesting debate in that. Is omniscience or omnipotence better? Because omnipotent, no. Sorry, is omniscience or omnipresence better? Because omnipresence, while omniscience is knowing everything all of the time, a little bit of everything all of the time. Sorry, but that is, that would be, in my opinion, not wonderful, because like you couldn't really do anything without the fun. Like you could know everything, but then you're gonna like, so on a very mundane level, every book you ever read is going to be spoiled. Every show you ever watch, you'll know the ending. Whereas if you're omnipresent and you, like, if you're everywhere, you could know everything if you tried hard enough by watching everything. But you could also not, by just choosing to not know it. It's like optional omniscience, kind of, in a way, where if you pay attention to every little detail, you would know everything. But if you say you were Nick, a thousand eyes in the dark, and you just didn't like what was going on, you could just close an eye for a little while, and you wouldn't have to be conscious of everything. But yeah, so he follows these humans because he is quite attached to humans. And as we do learn later in the show, he is attached to humans because it is his lover that is it his lover created them as a sort of side project, he he died a while ago, and a couple of thousand years ago, and his body is entombed in the earth which he created, his heart pumping the black rains around this earth that turns it so dark and so twisted. And so this is why he loves humans, because they were left by the one that he loved so much, and they are all that is left of him. And this is why he hates some humans, for they seek only at their gain whatever must be done, including the destruction of humankind, such as Lady Ethel Mallory. She is one of the other major villains, and she is well, not exactly villains. They have a very complex morality in a way, and she's doing things for her own reason. But basically what it boils down to is money and power for her. And yeah, there is so much that I could tell you within this podcast, and I haven't even finished it. So I'm going to leave it here, and since one, this is my first review, and two, I haven't fully finished it, there is so much more nuance in the show that you could experience for yourself. So I do urge you, please go and read. I mean, sorry. please go and listen to it. It is available on Spotify, Apple Music, all major podcasting platforms. Hello from the Hallowoods by Mix William A. Wellman. Thank you very much for listening, and stay tuned to the end because there will be a merch reveal.